So next up we have McLaren Minerals, ASX code MML. McLaren is advancing one of Australia's most promising titanium projects in the Iluka Basin. Presenting for the company today is Managing Director Simon Finnis. Simon, over to you.
So the McLaren project is a mineral sands project in Western Australia. We believe it's a very good project. I'll get onto that in a minute. However, you can't build good projects or even any project really without a good team. And we believe we've built a very good team here. All of these gentlemen have experience in project development, public companies, and in mining specific industries. So we built a great team. I myself have built a couple of mineral sands projects, one in Africa and one in New South Wales. Peter's been involved in mineral sands from very early in his career in Western Australia. And Michael, of course, is chairman of NRW, a very, very large mining services company. So this is the project itself. You can see that it sits nicely on the Air Highway, which is a major highway in Western Australia, connecting, obviously, Western Australia to the eastern states. We are 150 kilometres east of Norseman, and from Norseman to the Port of Esperance is another 180 kilometres or thereabouts. So we have a sealed road all the way from the mine to the port. And that's very, very important for any of these bulk projects where logistics is a key component of your operating cost. Other benefits, we've obviously got a very large resource here and work is obviously underway under a mineral resource state. You can see within the confines of that green outline, there's 280 million tonnes of mineral sands, and of that, there's 80 million tonnes of indicated. Very little overburden here, and that is obviously integral to running a simple mining project with low operating costs. And then we've got free-flowing sand down anywhere between 15 to 30 odd metres. So very consistent ore body. This is Crown land. The plant itself will be approximately 2 kilometres off the highway. It is 40 kilometres from Balladonia. So for the phase we're in right now, it's ideal. We can get supplies from there. We can get fuel. There's an airstrip. There is accommodation. So it's a fantastic setup. I guess the main thing about this is an ilmenite project, so it's very, very straightforward from a flow sheet perspective. We'll do some feed prep, obviously, to remove the slimes through hydrocyclones and thickeners, and then we put the ore into the plant. And I guess counterintuitively, what you're doing there by removing the slimes is actually upgrading the grade. So if you're putting, for instance, 6% in the front end and you're taking out the slimes, you're then running about 8% into the plant. What that means is we can have quite a small plant, but about 10 million tonnes a year of spirals, and then some magnets, and that's pretty much all we do. So we produce an ilmenite concentrate and what we call a non-mags concentrate, which holds the leuci, the zircon, and the rutile, and all the ilmenite goes into the magnetic concentrate. This is our resource in a bit more detail. As I said, 80 million tonnes at around about that 6% HM. This is an ilmenite dominated ore body, but you see there nearly 4 million tonnes of ilmenite in situ and much lower amounts of the rutile, zircon, and leucoxene. And you can see the outlines there of the ore body as it currently stood when we acquired this project. And as I said, we've done some drilling and we hope to enhance that. This is just some specifics around how I measure, I guess, a mineral sands project or assess a mineral sands project. Obviously, Western Australia, very friendly place for mining. Approvals here, we don't see any issues. We've done a study looking at the satellite imagery from the point of view of flora and fauna. The size of the resource is obviously large. We believe this is a 20-year mine. Overburden, as I mentioned, very, 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 very thin, thick, juicy ore body. Slimes are high for an ore body, but we've proven during the PFS that we can manage it. There's no rocks here. Separation is simple. Logistics, again, very, very straightforward. So we've got a very efficient system laid out from the mine to the port, and then obviously straight into a ship, Deepwater Port of Esperance, and off to the customer. Specification, very attractive in the ilmenite smelter space. Location, Location, really. We've got everything covered here. Comms is very straightforward. There's a Telstra tower within 5 kilometres of the site. We found water during the PFS. And from all of that, what we're anticipating is that the costs will be modest. So here we are today after having done a bunch of drilling earlier this year, and some of the spectacular results we've listed there. 25% mineral sands doesn't come along very often. I guess the most exciting thing about those results were, in fact, that they are quite deep and they're in a lens that we believe was pretty much overlooked by previous explorers because it's in an atypical mineralisation host. So we're seeing very high grades beneath the traditional mineral sands profile, and we think about 60% of those holes in the indicated portion of the resource actually did not go deep enough. So we're very keen to test that theory, and we've seen that high-grade lens to the north. You can see those purple and red dots. You can see it out to the east and, of course, to the south. So, we believe this high grade is widespread, but really the best thing about this ore body is it's just consistent. Every hole we drill's got mineralisation, grades we can happily mine. And the way we're obviously going to mine this is in bulk. We're not going to pick and choose. We're going to push it all into a hopper and we're going to slurry it up and pump it to the plant. So all of that leads into that conversation we're having about cheap operating costs, modest capital costs, and quite a simple operation once it's up and running. We certainly believe there's resource growth potential here. We can't speculate, of course, on the numbers, but obviously what we're seeing through the drilling is significant areas of mineralisation outside of the indicated resource. We're seeing extensions that had not previously been identified, and we're seeing that spectacular high-grade depth. So mineral resource work is underway. We're anticipating something out of that in the next couple of weeks. It's been a slow and a frustrating slog. We're getting there. So the pre-feasibility study pretty much is done now. We're waiting for the MRE and we're waiting for some numbers out of our engineering group. But that is very, very close. And if we look at this slide, which I generated at the very start of the PFS, what we needed to do was on the right-hand side, and we've succeeded in all those outcomes. We developed a nice flow sheet. We've proven the slimes can be managed at the front end and also from a co-disposal perspective after processing is complete. Water source, we found plenty of water when we were drilling this time. Infrastructure, straightforward. Obviously, we need to bring in our own energy generation capacity, but other than that, very, very straightforward development path from an infrastructure perspective. And offtake studies we've done and discussions we've had indicate that we've actually got a project that produces something that will be in demand, and that's always nice. So here's a bit more detail. Test work's done, co-disposal of 100% of the slimes. That's very important. So obviously we pull the slimes out at the front, we process or separate sand into the minerals we want to capture, and then we slurry it all up together and pump it back to the void, and then we co-dispose that back into the void. There'll be several months at the start of this process where we put that material into what we call an off-path tailing storage, which is just on surface, and thereafter, once we've advanced the void to a certain point, we can dispose of the material into that void. And that makes a very efficient mining process. So you basically take it off the front and put it in the back, and then you rehabilitate progressively as you go. Project design, as I said, pretty much done. We're very happy with where we've ended up, a very simple flow sheet, and everything else we've done so far indicates this will be a successful PFS. So timing, I know we've pushed this timing out. It seems to be difficult. We had a long time waiting for assays from our drilling, which has really held up everything, but we should deliver everything very, very soon. Imminent is a word probably used too often. However, we're very, very close with a lot of these aspects, and we believe we'll have this out with the market very, very soon. So I'll talk a little bit about the market because we understand mineral sands and the market side, but ilmenite really just goes in 99% of the market. Pigment's in paper, it's in plastics, it's in paint, it's in everything you require really for a modern world. So ilmenite and pigment are extremely important. We've seen strong growth in the ilmenite space over the last 10 years. When I was in Africa in 2014, we were selling our sulfate ilmenite there for about $80 US a ton. Current price for sulfate ilmenite delivered to China is about 350 US a ton. So we've seen significant growth in the price, which makes this project very, very attractive, particularly with the Aussie dollar at 6 today. So this market is strong. China, like everywhere else, in every other country, really grown in this market very, very strongly, and see that continuing. They have built a very significant sulfate pigment presence. They've built a significant chloride pigment presence, and they're now growing their presence in the smelting space. We see the smelting space as a fantastic place for this product. The key benefits of smelting is that you can get saleable products from the iron, and you get saleable products obviously from the titanium dioxide. So of the product you put in the front end, you get about 90% plus saleable products out of the McLaren concentrate. That is a really good outcome for the smelters, low waste, high payables, and the chloride slag, or the slag you'll produce, will go into the chloride pigment process. So again, that'll be 80 to 90% pure titanium dioxide product. And again, for the pigment producers, that's very attractive once again because of the lowest high product ratio and low waste. This is just a snapshot of the Chinese TiO2 market. You can see that slag area down the bottom of the chart on the left, which we believe will grow. There's 8 to 10 smelters being constructed, or furnaces being constructed, in China right now, and they are obviously taking advantage of their cheap energy. Similarly, in the Middle East, we know Jazan is now at full capacity on one of their furnaces. They're bringing the second furnace online. In total, they will require 1 million tonnes or thereabouts of sulfate ilmenite as feedstock. So another 500,000 tonnes of feedstock will be required to keep that second furnace built. Obviously, where our business is aimed at a 20-year mine, pushing about 10 million tonnes a year through the plant to produce around about 400,000 tonnes of ilmenite concentrate. So that fits neatly into that marketing gap that is growing in China and the rest of the world in that smelting space. And you can see the pricing indication there on the right-hand side as well. So just to sum everything up, we're obviously in a great spot in Western Australia. We're close to a port. We're far enough away from everybody so as not to be a nuisance. Very high quality resource, perhaps not sexy like some of the other projects you'll see around the place, but what we're seeing is a very consistent ore body that plays nicely into the bulk processing and haulage systems we'll be putting together. Like mining, as I said, there's a clear development path. PFS just about to be out. Based on the results of that, we'll launch straight into the next phase. Growth potential, not just with this project, but certainly including this project. We see particularly the sulfate ilmenite space being a very attractive place to be for the next period of time. And we put together a team we believe is the right team to build this project. So I'll finish there and happy to take some questions.
Thank you, Simon. So you did touch on this already, but in terms of our questions today, so you mentioned you recently provided an update on the pre-feasibility study. Just to reiterate this, so engineering is 95% complete, and you've recently received the independent marketing report. What are the key takeaways from that report, and how do they support the economics of McLaren's path forward?
Yeah, sure. Look, the marketing report was very positive in that ilmenite area. I guess through our contacts, we had imagined that was the case, but what the marketing report really told us was there is incredible growth already occurring in that ilmenite space, in the ilmenite smelting space, and we see that growing even more. In our upcoming quarterly, we'll put a bit more about the marketing in there just to keep people across what we see that as the growing trend towards ilmenite. And we believe that really quite a strong foothold for us in this market. Obviously, in Australia, the hardest thing is actually getting things in production. Once you have things in production, we're a great partner. So that's part of the program for us in the next 12 months, is to find a strong offtake partner to look to basically take the material from McLaren, and that'll be a huge stepping stone in that feasibility. With regards to engineering, I've mentioned that we are very, very close now. We're just looking at costings, and then we'll finalise all the calculations around the financial outcomes. And we obviously anticipate those to be strong. And I think the market will finally get the joke about McLaren once they see those numbers.
Mhm. And then, so looking ahead, Simon, so what are some near-term catalysts that you could outline for upcoming milestones or something that shareholders should be watching out for or aware of in the next few months?
Certainly, the mineral resource update, we're anticipating that's very soon. And once that's complete, we can develop our conceptual pit design. And from there, we roll straight into the financial model and developing the financial outcome. So all of that should happen in the next little while. I think in that order, mineral resource update will be first, which we'll announce, obviously, and then thereafter we'll do all the other number crunching behind the scenes. But they're the couple of main things that will happen in the next little while.
Thank you, Simon, and thank you for your presentation and sharing the McLaren story today. We'll be keeping a close eye on the company and what's to come.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.